afternoon. Welcome to our first discussion around Mindset Matters, which is a discussion focused around how to create more business and wealth and financial gain in your life. It's a very fascinating topic because I'm here today with Mandy Evill, who is the top success mindset coach in the UK under the Proctor-Gallagher Institute. And one of the things that we're going to be focusing on today is what kind of a mindset is required in order for us to take a quantum leap in our results. And when I talk about results, I'm talking about success-driven results. So success can mean a lot of different things to different people. Success is obviously something that we measure in our financial gain, in our wealth, in our prosperity, in how much we lack worry in our life. Success is also something that we can measure in terms of our happiness, how much we're at peace in ourselves, how confident we feel, how inspired we feel every day when we wake up in the morning, what the love in our life looks like. So with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mandy so that she can tell us a bit about herself. And the way we've sort of structured the call today is that I've put together a list of questions that I'm going to be asking Mandy to kind of go through as we start to have a discussion. And then at the end of the call, I will open up the floor or the platform so all of us can ask some questions. And even if you have some personal requests, any kind of examples in your life, we'd love to be able to talk about that and answer any questions that you have. So welcome, Mandy. Thank you so much for joining us. It would be great if you could just give us an overview, introduction of who you are so everyone knows, if they haven't met you before, the kind of work that you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lyndsay. Thank you for inviting me. So, yes, my name is Mandy Evill. I have been working with Bob Proctor for the last 4 years as one of his consultants, and I coach and mentor people through much of his learning and his teachings. Although I have some of my own programs, it's mainly Bob's program that I teach and mentor people through. Now, previous to that, I've kind of been in personal development for probably 20 years now, a long time. And during that time, I've studied many different aspects of personal development. I've studied NLP, cognitive behavioral coaching, hypnotherapy, Landmark Forum and Landmark Education. I was a coach there. I did lots and lots of things in personal development. But it was interesting because about 5 years ago, just before I had the opportunity to work with Bob, I became stuck. I was a very successful business consultant at the time, and I became stuck. And I couldn't understand it. I really couldn't. It's like, hang on a minute, I've got all this personal development behind me and I'm stuck. How can that be? And I did probably what most people do, is I tried harder and I worked harder. So I worked physically harder, and I worked so hard until finally I burnt out. And I gave myself the sack. I closed my business down, took some time out, and fortunate enough to come across Bob Proctor at that point, and the opportunity to actually work side by side with him, which was phenomenal. And I've been doing that now for the last 4 years. But interesting, Lyndsay, at the point that I did that, I found the missing jigsaw piece. I found why I was working harder and still not getting the results. I'd kind of leveled out. So I found the solution. And since then, I've been teaching and mentoring and coaching people through the aspects of how people can find it themselves and take that quantum leap that you were talking about. So yeah.
Thank you so much. That's so helpful to know just kind of what your experience is. And I think for me, and I guess for other people, it's always comforting to know that you've sort of been through it and you've had businesses in addition to the kind of coaching and support that you now offer people. It's always nice to relate to what it's like when you're going through a business or building your career or building your life into the dream that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with, a lot of the people that I talk to and a lot of the people that I know we've worked with and we've discussed, because we've kind of done a lot of work together, one of the first things that I always ask people, and I know it's generally important for people to understand, is what is it that you or they, that everyone on the call, what is it that people want to achieve in their life? It's so important to know what you want. And with that, there's a whole piece around it, which is, what are your goals? What are the kind of things that you want to accomplish in your life? And I know, Mandy, that that's really the first part of any kind of development that people go through, which is, what are you striving for? How do you know what direction you're going in if you don't know where you're going? So I don't know if you can give us some tips and advice or shed some light on what it means to develop a worthy goal, and how to even start looking at that. What is a real goal?
That's a great question. That's a great question. How do you find what you want when you don't know what you want? It's a perfect question. And interestingly, Lyndsay, I talk to a lot of people who are on a crossroads. They don't know where to go. They're not trusting themselves to make that right decision, or the decision that they want to be right. So they can, I find a lot of people will flip. I'm going to do this. No. Now I'm going to do this. No. Now I'm going to do this. And now I'm going to do this. And that comes from our internal thinking and our internal beliefs. But fundamentally, this is the thing that I didn't know this, okay? And I really didn't know this, but and I used to set goals, okay? And I've always set goals, and some I would achieve and some I wouldn't. But what I didn't know is that fundamentally, we are all goal-striving beings. We are always looking. We're goal-striving organisms. We're always looking to expand ourselves. We're always looking to grow. Now, I didn't know that, but I always felt this internal frustration, or this internal something, I've got to go and do this, or I've got to go and do that. And I think that a lot of people feel that inside, but they might not know which way or where to take that, if you like. But fundamentally, if you're feeling frustrated, or not even just frustrated, but if you're feeling that desire and that urge inside of you, then that's a great place to be. It's a perfect place to be, because what you know is like, hey, I'm ready to take the next step. Now, deciding and finding out where that next step is and where that goal is can be a conundrum for people. It really can. So I know that when I work with my clients, we go through a whole process of really looking at all sorts of things. Like, you really need to write out everything. You really, and it's, bottom line is, it's not what you need, but it's what you want. Because the want is going to drive you. You're going to feel your purpose inside of your want. So it's about looking at what you want, not what you need, not what you think you can have or you think you might want, but actually, really, truly, if the chips were down and there was nothing stopping you, there were all the resources in the world at your fingertips. And by the way, you do have all the resources, but that's another question. If you have all the other resources at your fingertips, what do you want? Because the want comes from that burning desire. Now, you don't have to know your purpose. You don't have to know your vision. You don't need to know those things right at the beginning. It's a very simple question. And I know Bob, when Bob speaks, he has a beautiful strapline. He says, you tell me what you want and I'll show you how to get it. And that is where it starts. And in fact, if you look at all the great successful people in the world and the great thinkers, they go straight to, what is it you want? Because what you want, if you think about it as well, and Lyndsay, you must actually tell me to stop when you want me to stop the answer, okay? Because I can talk.
I'm gonna chime in.
Okay. So if you think about it, children want things. Think about children, they want things, don't they? And they never give up when they want it. Mum, I want this. Dad, I want this. I want this. I want this. I want this. And they have this desire. They want it. They expect it too. So you have to look inside, but you can actually physically do some practical applications of just writing out what you want. Just go, Start there. Write out what you want.
So I think what a lot of people get caught up on is they think about what they want, but they're thinking inside of a box.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, oh, I really want a promotion at work. But you're like, hold on a minute. What kind of a lifestyle do you want? How do you see yourself living? How can you, and you know, one of the things that has been theming in my life, when we start to look at getting what you want in terms of business, career, and financial gain, which is what this call is focused on, is expansion. Because people think they know what they want, but it's within the confines of what they know. So what I'd like to just kind of push a little bit further for everyone on the call in terms of your thinking, if you can, and this is actually a better time than ever because our familiar structures are sort of going through a change and a breakdown in the world right now, take away all of the factors that keep you constrained. And then start to think about what you really want. So how do you want to wake up in the morning? What does that home look like? What do you feel like? What does the room around you look like? What kind of curtains and decorum do you have? What kind of sheets are you sleeping on? What kind of slippers and carpeting underneath your feet do you want to sink your toes into? When you walk into your kitchen, what does that look like? Do you have a cup of coffee in your house? Or do you walk outside? Do you go for a run? Do you get into a car? What is it that you want? Is your family all around you? What kind of a business are you running? What kind of a business are you contributing to? So we start to get into like, not the logistics of what we already have and what we want within that, but we start to practice expansion. So if you could have everything you've wanted, then what would you want? And whoa, you start to feel the expansion in your thinking. So I kind of wanted to point that out. When we start to set goals in terms of what we want, we take it a step further. So Mandy, I don't know if you want to comment on that before we start to talk about the actual money part of it, if you wanted to add to that.
No, that's absolutely perfect. The only thing that I would add is that we will think of things within our own limitation, and as we grow, then we think of more things. But exactly as you said, Lyndsay, take away any limitations, take away the how. How the hell do I do that? So I want to be CEO of this company. How the hell do I do that? You don't need to know the how. You don't want to know the how. Right now, you don't need to and you don't want to. But what will happen for most people, they'll write something down and they'll say, yeah, but I don't know how to do it. Don't worry about the how. And that's the really important thing, Lyndsay, is exactly what you were saying. Do not worry about the how. Just let yourself express the greater you, the more you, and get it down on paper. Definitely.
And I think we can talk about why you shouldn't get into the how at the end of the phone call during our Q&A. But for the sake of keeping us on track with the content that we promised everyone on the call, what I'd like to do is talk about results. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use myself as an example, and I'm going to use that to kind of leverage my discussion with Mandy here so that we can all start to put ourselves in that type of thinking. And I'm going to ask everyone this, think about how much money have you earned in a month or in a year in your life? You don't need to say it or type it. Keep it to yourself. Let's say that I've earned 100,000 pounds or 50,000 pounds, whatever, in 1 year, okay? So the reason I point this out is because I'm now gonna ask Mandy to talk to me about why I have never been able to earn more than 100,000 pounds a year in any business or in any job or in anything I do. And if the most I've ever earned in a month is 10,000 pounds, why have I not been able to earn 20,000 or 30,000 or 40,000 pounds in a month? So, Mandy, please shed some light on what we're talking about here in terms of earning potential and why people get stuck with an earnings cap or roof over their head and they don't even know that that's where they are.
Absolutely. And absolutely. And most people and yourself and all of us, we can look back over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, and there'll be a slight up, maybe a slight down, but there's a mean. So whatever the mean is. So Lyndsay, the reason that I would say in terms of answering your question, okay, is that the reason that you hypothetically earn 50,000 a year is because your subconscious knows only how to earn £50,000 a year. Now you might say, well, what would you say to that? Let's have the conversation.
I would say, I don't know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I know that that's what my job pays me and that's how much I've earned. It just happens to be that it's 50,000 all different ways.
Absolutely. So people will accept what they're given. That's the first thing. That's in line with what's in their subconscious mind. Now we're going to talk I will talk about something called a paradigm. And a paradigm is a multitude of habits that sits in your subconscious mind. Now, what you want to understand is that all the things that you know do not, and all the things that you've learnt, and all the things that you think you might understand, you know, all those seminars, webinars, you know, chat shows like this, and what the books, the university, the training, all of that information has gone into your conscious mind. Okay, so we have two parts of our mind. We have our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. So all that learning goes into your conscious mind. That does not relate to what you do. Your subconscious mind is your doing mind. Your conscious mind is your store of knowledge and information and your thinking mind. And you can do great things with your conscious mind. But what's inside your subconscious mind is your paradigm. And whatever your paradigm is set, in fact, we have a financial setting, that's the limit to what you're going to earn. Now, it's got zilch to do with external circumstances. Most people will say, oh, no, well, I'm only earning this because my boss only gives me this, or this, my industry is X. So I only get this. And right now, of course, well, look, circumstances are so bad that I can't possibly earn anything else, or the environment is such that it's not fortuitous for me. It's not true. It's seriously not true. You earn what you earn because you have a money paradigm inside of your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind puts you into a frequency, which we might talk about later, puts you into a frequency, but also it controls your behavior and your actions. And if you think about it, the actions that you take with your body, the actual physical actions, okay, are the result in your results, but it's all about what's in your subconscious mind, all about what's in your subconscious mind. And there's a great story. Maybe you'll tell the story, Lyndsay, about different environments and how we're brought up, and you know, maybe somebody from the Getty family or somebody else who was brought up in a very, 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 very wealthy environment, okay, they'd have a whole different mental environment around money. Okay, so your mental environment is based, and this paradigm that you have is based on your own environment from when you were a child and how you've been brought up. So you have this paradigm has been sort of almost given to you, if you like. It's almost been given to you. So that's why, okay, that's why people earn what they earn. That's, Lyndsay, is why you earn what you earn. Now, if you want to earn something different, guess what you've got to do? You've got to start shifting a paradigm so you change that mental environment. And that's what we show people.
So I think for a lot of people, that is a very loaded answer because it has a lot of information about the way the subconscious works, around the conscious. So let me just kind of reiterate a few points, and then maybe we can take some questions at the end of the call. So anyone who has questions, please write them down, because we'd like to remember them and then take your questions at the end of the call, because I know that, you know, we start to get into this stuff. Obviously, it's not just, you know, 1 + 1. It's not like you just know it in a day. So it's a little bit of a layered kind of education, I guess you could say. And then the bigger step is, how do you start to put that into action in your life? So first, I'm going to recap and you let me know if I got it straight or if I've confused things. First, so what we're saying is the amount of money that we earn each year or each month is pre-programmed into our subconscious. So there's something in us that believes that's how much money we're going to earn each year, and that's why we go out and make that money. So is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what we're saying here is that a lot of the time, what we believe is something we don't even know we believe. It's something that has been put into our subconscious from the time that we were children, or through our neighbors, our parents, our uncles, our aunties, grandparents, or the schools we've been to, which has somehow programmed us to believe in ourselves that we can go out and make that kind of money. Okay, does that sound right?
Absolutely.
So I had a couple questions around this as well, which maybe I can drop them now. We can answer them at the end. There were just some other things I think we were going to go through before getting into it, which I'm sure there are going to be a lot of questions. But so some of the questions that popped into my mind would be, oh, well, what about someone who works their way up the corporate ladder and they start to get a raise and a promotion and a raise and a promotion, and they make more and more money year on year or every 2 or 3 years? That was the first thing. We can answer it now or at the end. And then the other thing was, you know, how about people who open businesses and they just, you know, they get lucky. They skyrocket to the top. They do really well. And why is it that other people just seem to constantly have challenges financially, and it just never seems to be working out? But it kind of looks like sometimes it's just a matter of circumstance. So those were the 2 questions that I came up with that I thought a lot of people would probably have. So in a way, I'm asking on behalf of. I don't know if we want to answer them now, or if you wanted to get a little bit more into like results and what drives results.
Let's get the answers as they come. Let's do the questions, and then it kind of follows through. So the first thing is that the person who creates a business, bang, just like that, and has all that success, all right, guess what? They're programmed. It's their programming. And there's a fundamental thing that people need to accept here, that we have programs, we have this paradigm, we have this conditioning, okay? So they're conditioned differently. Every single person on this call, it has a different conditioning and has a different program around all sorts of things, whether that's money, relationships, everything. We have different programs, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing, that somebody who creates incremental changes, that's often the case. People can do that, okay? But if you want to make that quantum leap, then there's got to be a significant shift on the inside, okay? And without that significant shift, there won't be a change. But probably what you'll find is that somebody who incrementally just goes a little bit more and a little bit more, they at some point are going to max out, and they will max out, okay? And when they max out, they have reached their thermostat. They've reached their max on their own thermostat, on their own conditioning. So that's how it works. And the thing about circumstances, that's quite a big question in itself, because it's not about circumstances, and maybe we can do a little bit more about that later. That's a big one. Yeah.
So I know that in the beginning of the call, I talked about quantum leap. It's something that I have done a lot of reading about, something that I have become quite fascinated with over the past few years. And what was so funny is that it's something that Mandy was talking about when we met last year, and it's something that Bob Proctor talks about. Now, anyone on the call, I'm just going to say this now. I don't know if you've heard of Bob Proctor, if you know who he is, but he has been teaching. He's one of the world's foremost authorities on human potential. He's been teaching he's been studying and teaching this material for the past 57 years. He's a Canadian guy. He's 86 years old. You can Google him. You can watch his videos. He talks about energy. He talks about frequencies. He talks about universal laws. And he's just awesome. He's really, really,
excuse me, Lyndsay, what's his name?
His name is Bob, B-O-B, Bob Proctor. We can put it in the chat so that you can, I highly recommend actually watching his videos.
Thank you.
Because he is very informative. And if you like, I just put his name in the chat. If you like the kind of information that I've talked about in terms of understanding energy and how to raise your frequency and universal laws, one of the reasons I started working with Mandy and Bob Proctor is because it was totally aligned with my thinking. After my, 2 decades of studying and research, I was like, wow, this guy's got it all figured out. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out because we keep mentioning his name and you may not know who Bob is. But I think, getting back to my question, if I can even remember, we were talking about, results. Mm-hmm. So if I want to start getting different results because I've hit the cap, I've hit the limit, I want to make more than 50,000 a year, or I want to make more than 100,000 a year, and I just seem to be working and working and working, but I also want to enjoy my life. How do we start to do that? How do we start to shift our results? Because I know we said that we would start to look at how to shift our inner belief systems, which we know, if we've all, gone through the understanding energy lesson, our beliefs create our thoughts, and our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions are the frequency that we're emitting into the world. And our frequency is what attracts our experiences. And then those experiences are filtered again through our beliefs. But Mandy takes it a step further because she focuses on success and success mindset. So I wanted to know if you could talk to us, Mandy, a bit about beliefs and how they relate directly to wealth, financial gain, abundance, money, prosperity, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, great. Yeah, Lyndsay, you kind of pretty much hitting the nail on the head in all that you've said, because we want to really deeply understand. We can know a lot of stuff superficially. A lot of things just trip off the tongue so easily. But we want to study ourselves on a much deeper level. The more that we study ourselves, the more understanding that we're going to have of how we operate. And when we understand how we operate, guess what? We can change that operating system because we understand it at a greater degree. But the very first thing that we really truly want to understand is that everything, well, just about everything, between 96 and 98% of what we experience in the world, our experience, regardless of what's happening, our experience is a result of what's going on the inside. So if I'm going to give you a little bit of example that, we've got this stuff going on in the world right now. The stuff is going on. The stuff is the stuff. It's real, it's happening, it's out there. But our experience of it, and we've got, 10, 12, 15 people on this call, our experience of what is happening is going to be different. There's going to be as many different experiences as there are people on this call. So our experience of something is really, really important, okay? Because just as you were saying, it's our belief system, okay, that influences, it absolutely 100% influences our thoughts. Our thoughts then head back down to our feeling, and then bang, we're back in that vibration again, okay? So how do we change that? Because we can get, I want to explain this a little bit, and you might relate to this, guys, okay? If you think about, okay, a result that you've got right now that you're not happy with, well, you can be happy with it, but actually I want a better result. Bank accounts are always a good place to go, okay? A bank account is always a good place to go, the bank balance, all right? So you look at the bank balance, you see the bank balance, and then you have a thought. And that's probably not a great thought. It could be something like, oh, damn it, I've got more months left than I have money in the bank. Okay, so you have a thought. That thought you get emotionally involved with. You into what we call internalize it, and it goes into your subconscious. Okay, goes into your subconscious. Your subconscious mind is putting you on a vibration and putting you on a frequency. But also remember, your subconscious mind moves your body into action. It's whereas how you move, okay? So you'll be starting taking actions that are in line with your vibration, in line with your emotion, and guess what happens? You kind of get the same result as you did before. Why? Because there's a vicious circle going on. You see the result, you have a thought, I don't like it, you get involved with it, you start taking action in line with your emotion, which is the same action, you get the same result, and you recall what I call it a vicious circle. And it's so easy, and especially in this time of uncertainty, it's so easy to get into that vicious circle. Okay, so how do we get out of that vicious circle? How do we kick it? Well, what we have to do is to shift some of our perception. Now, we have the ability from our conscious mind to perceive anything in any way we want. However, what we normally do is we perceive through our beliefs and our paradigms and this conditioning that Lyndsay and I are talking about. Okay, we'll normally perceive something through there. So it's an automatic. So all this is automatic. There's no conscious consideration, it's automatic. So we perceive something automatically because of our conditioning. Well, when we can begin to have an awareness of that, we can then start to shift our perception. And the minute we start to shift our perception, we're shifting our relationship to it. And therefore we are shifting our emotional, okay, because we can see stuff and we hear stuff. So we're then shifting, we have different thoughts, so we'll shift our emotional state to it. Okay. That's maybe a long-winded answer, I'm not quite sure. Ultimately, what we're doing and what we want to do is to shift our paradigms and shift our belief system. And the way that Lyndsay and I work, we do that through a process. And there's a very clear process. It's very structured. We work in a very structured way of doing that. Fundamentally, that's how that works. Does that answer the question, Lyndsay?
That's a really great answer. I'm going to take it a little bit further so we can go a little bit deeper. Can you elaborate on getting emotionally involved? Because for anyone who has ever actually shifted a belief system, or AKA manifested something they want in their life by consciously shifting a belief system or a habit, you know what we're talking about. So for example, when people say, oh, practice gratitude, it's not because we want to hop and skip down the street all day and be happy and thankful for everything. We want to get into the emotion and get emotionally involved. So I think that there's a big disconnect for a lot of people in the area of getting emotionally involved with the results we're currently getting, as opposed to getting emotionally involved with the results that we want. And I will even take it a step further, Mandy, if you can answer the question a little bit more about getting emotionally involved, because then what I'd like to quickly talk about is the subconscious mind knowing the difference between AKA reality and an imagined reality. So I think that's where emotionally involved really starts to come into play. And yeah, if you could just elaborate on that.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
So if you want to imagine, so if you just imagine my head here, okay, and there's a line. So I've got my, of course it's not like this, but if you imagine that this is what my mind is and what your mind is, okay? It's not, your mind is in every single cell of your body, every single cell in your body, okay? It's not separate from you. It's internal, it's here, it's in every cell. But if you just for a minute, for the purposes of explaining, okay, so just imagine that this circle here is my mind, and there's a line across it. Now I have my conscious mind up here where I do all my thinking, I've learned everything, I've got all the information I've ever learned, I ever know, everything I ever know is here, okay? And then I've got my subconscious mind, and we've just said inside of my subconscious mind is this conditioning. It's my paradigm that I call it, okay? Now, what happens is, okay, you can have a thought up here, and you will, we call it internalize it. So you let it into your subconscious. Now your subconscious mind is your emotional mind. The Greeks used to call it the heart of hearts. And we use the word feeling to explain what that emotion is. It's also a vibration, and it puts us in a vibration. So we use this word feeling to explain the vibration that we're in. So you might say to someone, "Oh, how are you today?" And they'll say, "Oh, not too bad." Absolutely know what kind of vibration they're in. Or somebody say, "Yeah, I'm great," or somebody, whatever it is, okay? But we express through our verbally what's going on down here in our subconscious mind as well. So what happens is we'll have a thought. I'm not happy about the amount of money I've got. I don't think I've got enough to last me the month, all right? Or something like that. And you'll feel it. You'll get emotionally involved with it. I feel scared, I feel concerned, I feel worried, I don't know where the money's going to come from. You could think about this about anything. I'm just talking about money because money is our subject today. But it could be the environment, it could be what's going on outside, the circumstances, could be your relationships, could be anything. And you'll have all of those thoughts. Now, what people will say is, and most people will say, "Oh, it's a negative, positive." That is true, okay? But I prefer to go much deeper than negative and positive, because it's easy to say, "Oh, keep positive thinking, positive thinking, positive thinking." But how the hell do you keep positive thinking when you've got all this negative stuff going on, okay? So when you become aware of the actual thoughts that you're having, you will then feel it, okay? And that is the relationship between what you think and what you feel, because your feeling is your subconscious reality. Your subconscious reality, I want to put an S on there, it's reality, okay, is what you feel. That is the reality for your subconscious. And your subconscious, as Lyndsay was saying, is, because it's a frequency and a vibration, and it puts you into action, is what you will manifest. That is what you will draw to you, okay? So that's so critical about how you feel, 100%. But remember, nobody makes you feel anything. You feel because you've let a thought in, okay?
That's a good point. Nobody and no thing can make you feel anything, because when your thoughts are strong enough and your mindset is in the right place, you always choose the way you feel. If a negative feeling comes up, it's just letting you know that there's some underlying belief there that you need to look at in order to start shifting into the mindset that you want to have 100% of the time. Because we all recognize that we're human, we're not perfect. Nobody's trying to walk around and pretend to be positive when you genuinely don't feel positive. You're not in a positive vibration, whether you say you're positive or not. So I think getting emotionally involved in the results that you want, as opposed to getting emotionally involved in the results that you in the results that you have, is a really important factor to point out here. I just wanted to ask Mandy, and I think if you could start to get your questions ready, we're going to go into Q&A. You can either chime in and ask them verbally, or you can start to write them in the chat group and I will read them out and we can answer them for you. But Mandy, can we talk a bit about, and this is because it's an area of success that I am quite, I'm quite obsessed with. I think it's amazing, it's fun, it's free, and it's a practice that everyone should really be conscious of and involved in. So visualization, or, real, as in like our 3D world that is actually, turning up in our life every day, versus imagined reality. So I wonder if we could talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is a very key factor. It's something that, we've read about in Psychocybernetics, written by Maxwell Maltz, which is a book that I started reading on my YouTube channel. And we've read together and we've all read independently. And it's a wonderful book if you haven't read it, Psychocybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, where he talks about self-image and he talks about the practice of visualization. So I wonder if you could talk about that briefly, and then I think we've got about 17 more minutes until the hour's up. We'll go into Q&A in about 3 or 5 minutes.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that Lyndsay is it's a very critical. It's a critical topic if you want to be in a place of creating what you want rather than what you don't want. Okay, because you're creating anyway, by the way, guys. Everyone's creating anyway. So if you're creating what you don't want, you're creating what you do want same way. So that's why it's so really important to know how you're creating. Okay, but visualization is a really key tool to, if you like, in some way, fooling your subconscious mind. And another guy, Neville Goddard, you can YouTube him. He talks a lot about imagination and how we use our imagination. So
sorry, Mandy, just one thing. If we can keep the visualization examples focused around money and wealth and financial gain. Sorry, I forgot to add that.
Sure. So here's the thing. If you, so your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. And that's the first thing that you want to know, okay? Because it's based on feeling. The subconscious mind is like it's communication. It communicates, if you like, with the external universal mind through feeling. So here's the thing, when just as Lyndsay was saying earlier on as well, when you start to think about and visualize and bring a picture of the things that you want into the screen of your mind, and you start to think about that. So if that's about a new more income, whether that's about a different position in your job, doesn't matter what that's about. When you start to visualize it and think about it and get emotionally involved with what that feels like, because that's the critical thing. We can think about what we want all day, okay, but if we don't get emotionally involved with it, not going to make a ha'porth worth of difference, okay? So we've got to get emotionally involved. So visualization as a practice, you can do it. I do a lot of visualization all day just because I'm forever thinking about what I'm going for, what my goal is. And the minute I think about it, I get emotionally involved with it, like what that would feel like. But we can do this practice on purpose. Now there's 2 times of the day that's the best time of day to do it. And that's the minute that you wake up in the morning. You know, like when you wake up, before your eyes are open, but you know that you're conscious, you know that you're awake. It's a beautiful time because your subconscious is open still. So you want to get involved and start running this picture through your mind and feel what it would be like being there. You can feel it, and it's a beautiful thing. And the other time to do it is before you go to sleep, because again, your subconscious begins to open up. And that's what we want to put. We want to get our subconscious involved on an emotional level with what we want. So visualization is critical in some ways, or well, it's not critical, but it does accelerate. It will accelerate. You know, Lyndsay right at the beginning talked about quantum leap. And if you want a quantum leap, then you've got to be visualizing. There is no doubt about that. You've got to be visualizing. And if you...
Here's the thing. I was saying, if we started the call by saying, know what your goal is and know where you're going, if you don't have any picture or idea of what that looks like, it's actually quite hard to achieve that in your life. So when we start to practice visualization in terms of what it is that we want to start getting really detailed. So writing it out is a great way to start creating a vision, because, and Mandy, I think you've taught me this, through the practice of writing, we get emotionally involved in our vision. And we can actually start to get into every detail, and we become lost in our vision and in our dreaming and in our imagination around what we're creating, because we're creative beings. We're here to create. So as we write and we say, this is what I want my life to look like, this is what I want my business to look like, this is how much money I want to make, we've got to start somewhere. Otherwise, it's like putting an empty address into your Google map. You don't know where you're going. And with that, you know, what Mandy was saying, first thing in the morning and before we go to bed, you know, we're half in, half out. We're not fully conscious and we're not fully asleep, but we're in a very impressible dream state where our subconscious mind is relaxed because our conscious mind is also relaxed. so we can start to impress upon ourselves what that vision looks like and get involved in it, feel it like it's really happening, because that's when we start to draw things closer to us that are going to get us there. So sorry, I thought I would just jump in for a minute, and even knowing like how you're going to spend the money you want.
That's beautiful, Lyndsay. And the one thing that I would say is that I know that some people find it hard to visualize, okay, and to really get that picture that they want. So one of the things that I say, and get emotionally involved with that. So what I tend to say is that get yourself thinking about things that make you feel good. That's the first thing. Start remembering some things that made you laugh. Start remembering some people that made you laugh, that made you feel good, some experiences that you really felt good. Now, when you're collecting that emotion and you'll start feeling good, I promise you what will happen is your imagination will start to open up. It really will. Because the more, as you know, when Lyndsay was talking about vibration, the more closed down our vibration is, or the lower our vibration, the more that I can't, I don't know how, I can't, it's can't, I can't, like we get really stuck down there. But if we start thinking about good things and we start having a laugh and we're starting remembering things that made us feel good, we're raising our vibration, and guess what happens? We start thinking in a different way because we're raising our vibration to a different frequency. So you'll start having ideas of, oh yeah, well, what if this, and what if that, and maybe this, and you can start painting the picture. And just like Lyndsay said, our pen, this is Bob saying, and I love this, our pen is our paintbrush. You know, start writing it out, and don't try and be perfect. That's the other thing. It doesn't matter what you write. The more you practice writing, the more you're going to expand, and the more you'll find out actually what it is you do really want, and then that's what you write, and you might change it as well.
The power of the pen. Write it and speak it into existence is the first step, is believing it. So at this point, we've got 9 minutes left.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions they want to kind of point, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. We're happy to answer any questions that you have.
I saw there were some notes in the chat box. I don't know if there were questions in there, Lyndsay.
Not really. I think if anyone has any verbal questions, if not, I'll maybe point out some of the comments that were made in the chat box, or ask some other questions. Go ahead, Nigel.
Can you recommend a book or whatever, or Google about visualization techniques? Because I find that difficult myself to picture things.
I've got a book just here, Nigel.
Right.
If you carry on without me, here it is. No.
Well, I think also I happen to find Psychocybernetics to be quite useful. There's a chapter where Malt goes into detail around studies that were conducted around success rates based off the back of teams of people and individuals who competitively visualize themselves winning, and their rate of success, which is it's just impressive. So for example, there's 2 particular studies that I'll cite that are in the book. 3 basketball teams, 1 practices every day, 1 sits and visualizes their practice every day, and the 3rd team does nothing. The 2 teams that are practicing scored with a 24% and a 23% increase. 1 was physically practicing, and the other team were visualizing their winning and their practice. So it's a pretty close result, whether you're physically doing it or imagining it. So that's a really interesting study. And then secondly, there was, I can't remember the name of the champion, but he's a chess champion, and he goes into training like as if he's training for a sport before his chess matches, where he locks himself away in the countryside. He plays chess all day long with an imagined opponent. And he also spends a good portion, if not half of his day, visualizing himself winning in the chess game, and he's a world champion. So there are many, 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 many examples of people, even in the Olympics, many athletes, if not all, they always visualize themselves doing their flips and jumps and tricks and sports. successfully and not getting hurt or injured. And, you know, this is the kind of technique that most and many successful people use, whether they're conscious of it or not. So that's when we start to get into our belief systems and what we truly believe is possible and can happen, and what success looks like, because we need to believe that.
So a practical guide, this book, Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. I don't know, does that come back to front, or I don't know if it does?
Yeah, it's fine.
Creative Visualization is a real good practical guide, it's one that Bob recommends. It's a practical guide to help you visualize.
Thanks, Mandy. I've written that down. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions they'd like to add?
May I have a question?
Sure.
Yeah, I want to ask that sometime we discussed that you must practicing about visualization. You must be manifesting the things. You must be doing law of attraction. I've been on a video call with Sir Bob Proctor last year, and we were discussing it. That if you are just sitting on your couch and just visualizing your success stories and winning stage, and it will give you a reason, it will give you a chance, like opportunity in life will come up to you, and act upon it is your work. Like it will also, in your subconscious mind, will insist you to work on that opportunity, because you cannot succeed just laying on your couch and just laying on your bed, isn't it?
Moshe, that is absolutely brilliant, because there's an example of climbing the mountain. I don't know, Mandy, if you want to give that example or answer, kind of elaborate on what Moshe is saying around taking action.
Well, what I would
inspired action.
Well, what I would say on that, Moshe, is 100%, because it's not just about visualization. Visualization will help you get that quantum leap. But here's the other thing that visualization does for you as well, because if you think about what I said, that your thinking mind, your conscious mind is your thinking mind, and your subconscious mind is your doing mind. It's your doing mind. You only take action as a result of what's in your subconscious mind. You only do. It's your doing mind. It's not your conscious mind, it's your subconscious mind. Therefore, if you think about it on a practical, logical level, if you're getting involved with something that's really great and you're feeling good, guess what's going to happen? You will internally be inspired to take action. It's kind of a natural process. It's not like you've even got to, you know, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And you don't have to do that, because it will feel so natural and so inspired. And that's the difference between working in this way and working hard. I mean, I've been there and I've done that, and the working hard doesn't work. But actually, when you're coming from inspired action, it's not working hard, it's an inspired action, and it's an easy action for you. However hard it might look from the outside, it's easy. And that comes from perception. So yeah, absolutely, Moshe, totally, 100%.
So there's a metaphorical example, which is, and this is, I guess, from the beginning of the call, getting back to the how. When you decide to climb a mountain, I don't at the moment climb mountains, but I know Mandy does. You stand at the bottom of the mountain and you stare up at the top, you know where you're going. Now, if you sit at the bottom of the mountain and you visualize yourself climbing that mountain without taking the first step, you're never going to get to the top, because you're living in your head. You're living in your imagination. But to be honest, once you start taking a step, the way and the how starts to unfold before you, because you're already in a much better place at succeeding, because you visualize your success, but you've got to take the steps in order to get there. There may be a rock, a jump, a log, whatever. You have to throw the cord and scale yourself up, but you will get to the top of that mountain. You just don't know how until you're physically on the path and doing it. And it's the same thing when you start to set out and achieve your goals. You don't know, and you need to let go of that, because that's just like, you can't be in control of what you don't know, and just allow yourself to trust in yourself and have belief. So I hope that helps. Does anyone, there are a few comments. Any other questions? there is a question from Bianca, which is, do you have any tips on what we can do while being at home for the next few weeks? It's hard to get inspired at the moment. And then are there any other, this isn't from Bianca, this is from someone else, but are there any other tools that we can use other than visualization?
I'll do that one. The first one is
Okay.
visualization is the best tool, and it's used by most successful people. So I wouldn't go and try and do anything other than what the people have talked about through the ages and what the most successful people do. And athletes, successful business people, that's what they do. So I wouldn't go and find anything else, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to do. So my answer to that question is keep visualizing, really do keep living from that place, living the moment from that place, take action from that place, think from that place. The second question, which was from, what was it? Hard to get motivated at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, motivation while we're going through such a shift in our day-to-day
So
life at the moment.
So what I would say about that is that motivation, motivation comes from the inside, okay? And when we're looking for external inspiration and motivation and it's not there, then we experience, well, hang on, what do I do? So inspiration and motivation is an internal thing. So the more that you can look at things and start thinking about things, it all comes from your mind. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So when you start to think about things, maybe if you're saying it's hard, that's the first thing. It will be hard. Okay. So I wouldn't tell yourself that. That's the first thing I wouldn't do. The second thing is start to look at the things that you like doing, that you love doing. So what do you really love doing? What do you want to be doing? What can you do? You know, you could be doing a lot of research about something that you want to do when this is over. You could be starting doing a project for something. What is it that you want? What is it that, it goes back to the first question that Lyndsay asked. Okay, I don't know whether you're working now or not working now. I don't know. But actually, if you're not working and you've got nothing to do, what do you want? What do you want to happen when this is over? What do you want to be going for right now? So that's where I would put my attention. My attention is always, where am I going? What's the next bit of road? How can I serve somebody better? How can I help? How can I deliver my services better? So that's where I'm always looking. So I just invite you to look in the same way.
So guys, we have a minute left. Mandy, thank you so much. I love listening to all of the knowledge. I know we could sit here and talk for the next 20 hours if we actually had that much time, but there's just so much information on this topic. So what we're going to do right now, because we know that there is a lot of change going on in the world, is Mandy's offering a one-to-one session with people, and I'm also offering a one-to-one session. They're both laser sessions to take you through the process of thinking, kind of through this, the process we went through on the call today, but specific to you. And we can tell you more about the Thinking into Results program that Mandy is running. I'm also running a Thursday night wealth and business group specifically to mastermind around wealth and business development. If you want more information on that, go ahead and let me know. You can book a call. We'll take you through it. And then just keep your eyes out for the follow-up email, because we'll list out the books and the suggestions that we mentioned on the call today. Thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyndsay.